Oh, I lost my voice then for a second. Hey, everyone. Hope you're all right. Second live of today for me. May not be the second live of today for you, but it's certainly the second live for me. So this afternoon, my time, we talked about Don Wells, the latest nonsense he's been saying. So, changing tactics, changing topic, changing case. We are talking about the Alec Murdaugh case right now. So yesterday there was a press conference. I streamed it live over on MichelleAfterDark. So if you don't know anything about what's been going on, I thought that his attorney spoke very badly at that press conference. I listened to it again after, and they didn't really make the case very clearly at all. At all. But anyway, if you don't know anything about it, Alec Murdaugh is in jail because he was found guilty in March of the murder of his wife Maggie and his son Paul, who was 21, I believe, at the time. And he now wants a retrial because there's accusations of jury tampering. And yeah, well, they've released the 65-page motion that explains everything in detail. So that's what we're going to read through. I might not read through every single word because we'd be here for hours, because I want to discuss as we go along, and we really would be here for hours. I don't want to be here really hours and hours and hours and 5 hours, and I can't do it. I just don't have the stamina for it. So I'm going to skip over some parts. I have skim read it, and there's more to it than was explained at the presser. Like I said, I don't think they spoke really well at all. I don't think they really made the case very well. It is a big deal if it's true. I mean, I don't know. My concern is that the people that they've spoken to have their own agenda. Like Juror 785 has her own agenda because she was dismissed as a juror. And we've got these sworn affidavits from a small proportion of the jury. Whatever Juror 785 said is irrelevant because she wasn't there during the deliberation. So nothing she could have done would have affected the outcome. My concern is Jim Griffin and Senator Dick Harpootlian going round to jurors' houses and basically knocking on their doors and asking to speak to them. And I mean, nothing screams intimidation. Even if they didn't say anything at all that's intimidating, nothing screams intimidation in a place that is known as Murdaugh country, like Senator Harpootlian going round to your house. You know, it concerns me. That concerns me as much as what is being alleged concerns me. So I've got concerns for both sides. I mean, look, as I said yesterday, if I want to be really selfish, I'd like there to be another trial because I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the Murdaugh trial. But that's really selfish because, it's putting Maggie's family and the rest of the family who are not directly involved in this, the extended family, it's putting them all through this again, going through a new trial again. And the chances are the outcome would be the same because the evidence speaks for itself. But if there is a new trial, I'd like it to be taken out of Colleton County, and I'd like it to be taken at least 100 miles away from Murdaugh country, where there could be a truly impartial jury, where there is absolutely no way that the Murdaughs could have any influence on it. That's what I'd like to see. That's what I'd really like to see. Anyway, let's say a few hellos, see who's in the house. Casey Marie, hello. Diane, hello. Twisted, hello. Lady Sapphire, Amy Lou, Aussie TV. Who else have we got in here? Elise, hello. Burlington Park, watching from the hospital ER in Johnson City. Oh no. I hope you're well. Well, if you're in the ER, maybe you're not well, but I hope you don't have too long of a wait. ERs round here, you die of old age before you get seen. Sylvia, hello. Jess, Linda, second live, 4:40 a.m. for you. Oh, dear me. Well, I don't know whether you've been to bed or whether you get up early. I don't know which one it is. I do not know. Purple AJ, Kathy, Criminal Med, Vicky. Who else have we got? Zoot. Down Under with Love. 2 pics. Oh no, Cheryl. And some more people coming in. We've got Chasing in the house. We've got Dawn in the house. Trina in the house. Mummy of Hamsters. Grandmother Crone. This Old Nurse. All right. Okay, without further ado, let's get into this. All right. Like I said, I'm not going to read every single word. I can make this a little bit bigger. I don't know how well you're going to be able to read this on the screen, but I'm going to read it all to you. Can I make it just a tad bigger? That'll do. All right. And I can go full screen, which will make it a little bit easier for everyone to read. Okay, so Richard Alexander Murdaugh, pursuant to Rule 29B of the South Carolina Rules of Criminal Procedure, moves to leave to file a motion for a new trial based on discovered evidence in the Court of General Sessions and to suspend this appeal during the pendency of the motion. Okay. All right. So we've got Exhibit A or Exhibit 1, and then within that we've got Exhibits A to I. And okay. Exhibit 1. Copy of motion for new trial. Okay. So here it starts properly. Defendant Richard Alexander Murdaugh, through the undersigned counsel, pursuant to Rule 29B of the South Carolina Rules of Criminal Procedure, hereby moves the court for a new trial after discovering that the clerk of court, so her name is Becky, tampered with the jury by advising them not to believe Murdaugh's testimony and other evidence presented by the defense, pressuring them to reach a quick guilty verdict, and even misrepresenting critical and material information to the trial judge in her campaign to remove a juror she believed to be favourable to the defence. So they are claiming that juror 785 was favourable to the defence. So the clerk of court, Becky, manoeuvred the situation such that that juror was dismissed. That's what's being alleged. Specifically, during the trial, the Colleton County Clerk of Court, Rebecca Hill, instructed jurors not to be misled by evidence presented by Mr. Murdaugh's defence. She told jurors not to be fooled by Mr. Murdaugh's testimony in his own defence. Miss Hill had frequent private conversations with the jury foreperson. Now, there was actually 2 forepeople, if you remember, because the jury chose a foreperson initially, and then Judge Newman said, no, I'm going to choose the jury foreperson. So there was a different foreperson than originally. So, but apparently there was private conversations between the jury foreperson. So I don't know which one this was at this moment in time. But yeah, That's what's being alleged. A court-appointed substitution for the foreperson the jury elected for itself. Okay. All right. Miss Hill had frequent private conversations with the jury foreperson. So it was the foreperson that Judge Newman elected for itself at the request of Miss Hill. So, okay. So they're alleging that Judge Newman elected the foreperson because Miss Hill said so. Okay. So presumably the one that the jury thought that they should elect or chose wasn't suitable for Miss Hill, so she had Judge Newman select one. Well, how would Miss Hill know who Judge Newman was going to select? So that's nonsensical. During the trial, Miss Hill asked jurors for their opinions about Mr. Murdaugh's guilt or innocence. Miss Hill invented a story about a Facebook post to remove a juror. So they're alleging that this Facebook post that Miss Hill allegedly saw didn't exist, that she invented this story. Although this Facebook post did exist, okay, Miss Hill pressured the jurors to reach a quick verdict, telling them from the outset of their deliberations that it shouldn't take too long. Miss Hill did these things to secure for herself a book deal and media appearances that would not happen in the event of a mistrial. So the defense called for a mistrial, right? They said, defense is always called for mistrial, so it's kind of par for the course. They can try it on. So they said that there should be a mistrial because of this jury. I remember them doing this. I remember them saying this. It wasn't the only time they tried to get Judge Newman to, say there was a mistrial, but apparently, Judge Newman must have been on her side because it was him that decided. Right, let me get this right. So, Miss Hill engineered a situation where a juror was removed because she believed that person would vote not guilty. Therefore, the jury would not be unanimous. But it was the defense that said this situation should be a mistrial. So the situation that Miss Hill engineered led the defense to call for a mistrial. But Miss Hill wouldn't have wanted a mistrial. Well, if she didn't want a mistrial, why did she engineer a situation in the first place where a fake Facebook post would be alleged to get a juror dismissed? Make it make sense. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. She might have hated the Murdaughs and wanted to make sure that a juror who she thought was going to vote not guilty, to get them out of the way. But it wasn't to do with a book deal that wouldn't happen if there was a mistrial. the way for her not to ensure that there could be no possibility of a mistrial from, what she was able to control would be that she did her job absolutely by the book. Not engineer a situation where a juror would be removed and then the defense would call for a mistrial. I mean, make it make sense. Because Miss Hill wouldn't have known, she couldn't possibly have known what Judge Newman was going to decide when if she did this thing, she did these things, she wouldn't have known which way Judge Newman would go. And she wouldn't have known what the defense were going to say, like I call for a mistrial. So that doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. And she didn't get a book deal. Wasn't this a self-published book? So it's called Behind the Doors of Justice, The Murdaugh Murders. Okay, so it does have a publisher, Wind River Media LLC. So is that her organisation? That doesn't sound like a book publisher to me, but I don't know. Wind River Media LLC. Wind River Media LLC. Wind River Media. Devil's Tower. That doesn't look like a book publisher. Maybe there's more than one mill. Wind River. Wind River Media. I have no idea. No idea. No idea. What am I doing here? Oh, the reshare now. Share then, you weirdo. There we go. All right. Okay, so she did it to get a book deal. So the co-author of the book put up 30k. To do what? What was the 30k for? What, to pay her to write it? Rivers Publishing often filters back to the watchtower.org printers through the SDA. But why do you need 30k to publish a book? Anyway, we're getting into the weeds here a little bit. Getting into the weeds here a little bit. Unless the judge spoke to the clerk. Well, he must have spoke to the clerk. I don't know. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. Miss Hill betrayed her oath of office for money and fame. Once these facts are proven, the law does not allow the court any discretion about how to respond. It must grant a new trial. And if these things are proven true, then he should get a new trial. He should. Publishing expenses. Okay. All right. I'm all right. All right. Statement of facts. All right. So we know he was indicted for murder. We know he was convicted on the evening of March 2nd, 2023, sentenced on March 3rd. Okay. All right. So court was not held on February 20th, which was President's Day. After returning from holiday, Miss Hill began to enter the jury rooms often. So this was after they came back from President's Day. So this was towards the latter kind of 2 weeks of the trial. The trial lasts for 6 weeks. So the last 2 weeks, this is when it all went down. Okay, she began entering the jury rooms often. So affidavit of juror number 630, 7th of August 23, attaches Exhibit A. As the defence began its case, Miss Hill told jurors, "Y'all are going to hear things that will throw you all off. Don't let this distract you or mislead you." So affidavit of Holly Miller, read juror number 741. Additionally, Miss Hill and juror number 826, the new jury foreperson. So this is the foreperson that Judge Newman elected. Now, was it Miss Hill who said, "Judge Newman, you must choose 826 because this person would make a brilliant foreperson"? Or did Judge Newman draw numbers out of a hat? We may never know. I don't know. On multiple occasions, went to another room to have private conversations lasting 5 or 10 minutes. Sometimes they would go into the jury's room, single occupancy bathroom together. So foreperson never said anything about the content of these conversations to the jurors. If that's true, that is bad. That is bad. I know what we were told when I was on a jury. We were told that we could discuss the case if we were all in the jury room together and all of us were together. So let's say if we were sent, if there was a sidebar or something, they needed to discuss something and we were sent to the jury room, right? We were allowed to discuss the case then if we were all there. But we weren't allowed to have any conversations anywhere else other than in that jury room, or if not all of us were present. That's what we were told. Now, obviously, every court's different, might be different rules, but that's what we were told. And we stuck by that. As far as I knew, we stuck by that. Because I was going to court every day on the bus, and another jury member was on the same bus. And we made very careful. We never sat together on the bus. We sat, if I saw her, we'd nod, and then we'd go to different parts of the bus. I didn't want to be accused of having a conversation on a bus with another juror, and then that being used as an excuse by somebody on the defense's side, one of the defendant's family members or whatever, to say it's two jurors colluding on my bus. So I was incredibly concerned about making sure that nothing could be accused of. Anyway, 2 days later, on Thursday, February 23rd, and continuing through the next day, Mr. Murdaugh testified in his own defence. Before he began his testimony, Miss Hill told jurors not to be fooled by the evidence Mr. Murdaugh's attorney presented, which at least one juror understood to mean that Mr. Murdaugh would lie when he testified. Miss Hill also instructed the jury to watch him closely, to look at his actions, to look at his movements, which at least one juror understood to mean that Mr. Murdaugh was guilty. Okay. Immediately after Mr. Murdaugh testified, four-person juror 826 told the jury that Mr. Murdaugh was crying on cue. She also criticised the former four-person, number 589, for handing Mr. Murdaugh a box of tissues when he was crying on the stand, because that's what the defence wants us to do. Yeah, that's the case here, chasing as well. Typically in cases here, they tell them they cannot even talk to their families or anyone else about the case at all, not until deliberations. That's exactly what we were told too, that we couldn't talk to our families, we couldn't talk to anybody. The only people we could talk to about the case was our fellow jurors in the jury room. So if we were on a break or whatever. So not even in the, like, there was like this big room and there's like a cafe attached to it where everybody kind of congregated in the morning, so that all the jury panels from different courts congregated in this room, and then the clerk of the court for us came to get us when they were ready, and she would take us to court 10, and then a different clerk of the court would come and collect their jury for their court. That's how it worked. So we weren't allowed to talk about the case, even if we were like in the court building. We were only allowed in our room. So we weren't allowed to talk to anybody, talk to our families, talk to anybody at all until the case was over. That was it. That was what we were told as well. But it does confuse me. How would she know that he was going to choose juror 826 unless she recommended that person to him? She wouldn't know who he was going to choose. That's confusing me, that is. The next court day after Mr. Murdaugh's testimony, so that's Monday, February 27th, Miss Hill told Judge Newman about the Facebook posting she purportedly saw on the evening of Friday, February 24th, the day Mr. Murdaugh's testimony concluded. While perusing a Facebook group called Walterborough Word of Mouth, so draft transcript of in-camera conference attached as Exhibit C, the court purportedly by juror 785's ex-husband, Tim Stone, allegedly stating that his ex-wife was saying she was on the jury and was saying stuff about how her verdict was going to be. Right, so she comes in, tells Judge Newman that there's a Facebook post and it's pertaining to what juror 785's been saying to her ex-husband. Okay. So surely Judge Newman would have had a look for himself. I mean, wouldn't he? He wouldn't just take her word for it, would he? He'd surely see that this thing existed, surely. I would think so. Okay, so Judge Newman asked her to produce a copy of the posting. All right. She could not produce a copy, but according to Miss Hill, a subordinate employee in the clerk's office, Laurie Weiss, discovered the post taken down and replaced by an apology post. So now we have no proof whatsoever that this post ever existed. Now, you and me, you know, we might be a little bit more savvy. What do you do when you see something that you think is concerning? You take a screenshot, don't you? So clearly she couldn't have been that concerned, or maybe she didn't think, or I don't know. So there's no proof that this original post existed, and instead there was a different post there, which was apologising. Folks, I posted a ugly post yesterday, to which I have deleted, and I kind of, in a roundabout way, directed it towards a certain person, and I would like to apologise to everyone who read that ugly for me to do that. And yes, I let Satan control me, and I broke down and started drinking, and when I was drunk, I made that post, and I'm sorry. Okay. Miss Chris, everyone who worked with Alex at the courthouse, they're all biased. The clerk deliberately did this because she knows Alex. So she knows Alex and doesn't like him, and that's why she's done this. Is that what you're saying? You're right, Mike. If this is proven, it is blown wide open for a mistrial. Clark's friends with Alex's wife. That's interesting. Interesting. No idea whether it's true or not. I think she thought she was securing a conviction, but she cheated. She lost me on the apology when she states she let Satan control her. That's not what she said. This is allegedly from her ex-husband. So it's her ex-husband who posted this thing online that no one can go and check out because it was deleted. And instead, he posted this instead. So we now have no idea what was originally posted on Facebook. There's no proof of anything that was said on Facebook. We've only got Rebecca Hill's word because she didn't screenshot it. Well, we don't know if she did. Well, she didn't show it. She didn't show it anyone. Okay, Rebecca Hill, Behind the Doors of Justice, that's her book, at page 97, attached as Exhibit D. Timothy Stone, Facebook post, blah, blah, blah. The apology post states the initial post was already deleted on February 16th. The apology post states the initial post was already deleted on February 16th. So it would have been impossible for Miss Hill to see the original post on February 24th. No. The apology post states the initial post was already deleted on February 16th. Well, that's the apology post, and it doesn't mention a date. I posted an ugly post yesterday. So when was this posted? We need to know when this was posted, because if that was posted on the 17th, then yes, we could say, based on this text, the original that was deleted was posted on the 16th. But unless we have the date of this post, we don't know what yesterday he's referring to. So again, that doesn't make sense. Not with the information that's presented here. That doesn't make sense. Okay, Mr. Stone, juror number 785, ex-husband, avers in a sworn statement that he made no such post. So he's denying that there was no post, and therefore this apology doesn't make sense either. Okay, so that's Exhibit F. Mr. Murdaugh has obtained an authentic download of the entirety of Mr. Stone's Facebook activity from January 23rd to March 2nd, which confirms he did not post the apology. So he didn't post this. So there's there must be two Timothy Stones then. All right. So there's two Timothy Stones in the same Facebook group, right? And one Tim Stone is Juror 785's ex-husband, and the other Tim Stone isn't. He's someone else who posted something that none of us know about, who then took it down and posted an apology. This is what we've got to believe. So it's nothing to do with Juror 785. Exactly. So who did? So have they worked out who this other guy is? Have they gone to the other Timothy Stone and said what was this post referring to? It's nonsense. I mean, so now we're going to believe that Miss Hill comes to court, tells Judge Newman that Juror 785's ex-husband has posted something dodgy on Facebook. They go and look at it. A subordinate person goes to find it, can't find it, but instead finds this apology. But just coincidentally, that's not Timothy Stone, Juror 785's ex-husband. This is a different Timothy Stone completely, because the ex-husband is denying all knowledge. And according to this motion here, he's sworn. He's made a sworn statement. Where is it? He's made a sworn statement here saying that he made no such post. It's insane. It's insane. So either he's lying in his sworn affidavit and he didn't say anything, and maybe Juror 785 is completely innocent. They did nothing wrong, right? Or Miss Hill got someone else, also called Timothy Stone, to make this post and then take it down before the judge has a chance to see it. I mean, look, if she got somebody to post something to implicate Juror 785, they wouldn't take it down, would they? Not until the judge had seen it. You wouldn't take it down and apologise if the idea was to get a juror into trouble. Is the defence trying to say Becky made the post? Yeah, probably. Or she got someone to make it. So somebody logs on to Facebook, creates a Facebook account, right? So they've got to create a Facebook account called Timothy Stone. So Juror 785 must have, Becky must have looked into her background and found out she's got an ex-husband called Timothy Stone. So she's made this new Facebook account called Timothy Stone to post in this group to get 785 into trouble, but then changed her mind and then posted an apology before the judge had a chance to see it. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. So Mr. Murdaugh has obtained an authentic download of the entirety of his Facebook, which confirms he did not post the apology. The supposed original post, if deleted, would not be recoverable at this point under Facebook's retention policies. Okay, I don't know about Facebook's retention policies. So they've downloaded his Facebook. Well, all right then, let's, why don't they subpoena Facebook and get this other Timothy Stone accounts, like details? I don't know. So he never posted anything to the Walterborough Word of Mouth Facebook group during the trial. Okay. Dear God. The person who made the apology post is an unrelated person, also named Tim Stone, whose Facebook profile picture is not juror number 785's ex-husband. So it's not her ex-husband who posted anything. Fat Lady Channel, you can go on social media during a trial. Why is she allowed to watch Facebook groups during the trial if she's got anything to do with the jury? Like, the jury's not meant to look at anything, but she's a clerk of the court. So, because didn't Jim Griffin get into trouble for posting a tweet? Wasn't that a thing in that trial? Does anybody remember that? So there is a second Tim Stone. Well, there could be a second Tim Stone, or it could be somebody masquerading like as her ex-husband. So has anybody actually spoken to the other Tim Stone? Because whatever he apologized for, we'll never know. Whatever ugly post he made, we'll never know. I mean, this that just doesn't make sense. That's nonsense. On February 28th, Miss Hill questioned juror 785 about the fictitious post. Well, it wasn't fictitious, was it? It wasn't fictitious. Why are they saying it was fictitious? Will the real Tim please stand up? Yeah, please. Please. So it wasn't fictitious. It just wasn't her ex-husband. This is what we're being led to believe, that the other Tim Stone apologized for something that we'll never know about. Well, we don't know what he said, but it wasn't fictitious because he wouldn't have apologized for something that wasn't there in the first place, would he? But anyway, she questioned juror 785. Okay, she told juror number 785 that someone had emailed her stating her ex-husband, Tim Stone, posted on the Walterborough Word of Mouth Facebook page that juror number 785 had been drinking with her ex-husband and that while drunk, she had expressed opinions on guilt or innocence of Mr. Murdaugh. So juror number 785 said that never happened. She'd not seen her ex-husband for 10 years. So I did say yesterday that nothing comes good of drinking with your ex, but it appears that the media were wrong in saying that she'd been drinking with her husband. She said that she hadn't seen him in 10 years, therefore that can't be true. So juror 785 asked to see the post, but Miss Hill would not show it to her. Yeah, apologising for the fictitious post previously made. So it's not fictitious. If it was previously made, it's not fictitious. Miss Hill directly asked juror 785 whether she was inclined to vote guilty or not guilty. She said she'd not made her mind up. Later that day, Miss Hill told juror 785 that Sled and Colleton County Sheriff's Office personnel went to Mr. Stone's house and he confirmed he made the post. So which Mr. Stone's house did they go to? Did they go to the ex-husband's house, or did they go to the Timothy Stone's house that made the post, who did make the post, but he's not her ex-husband? Or did Sled and Colleton County Sheriff's Office not do anything of the kind, and Becky Hill's lying? This is a fabrication, they say. But nobody went anywhere. Nobody went anywhere. Miss Hill told juror 785 she would somehow reinstate a restraining order. Miss Hill told juror 785 she'd reinstate a restraining order that she'd previously taken out against Mr. Stone, which is something that Miss Hill did not have the authority to do. Well, of course not. Exactly. What a mess. Yeah. What a mess. What a mess. That's true, Louise. Yeah. Pootie's not used to losing. He wants to get his own way. He does. Only on page 4. We're actually on page 8 of 65, if you look there. Okay, Judge Newman examined juror 785 regarding both the non-existent Facebook post and the tenant co-worker email. Okay. In camera. So draft transcript of in-camera conference. Okay. Exhibit I. Juror 785 described her interactions with Miss Hill regarding the Facebook post. She denied making any appropriate comments about the case to third parties and stated she wanted to hear closing arguments before forming an opinion on Mr. Murdaugh's guilt or innocence. After she was dismissed. Now, at this point, she's denying everything, but they dismiss her anyway. So there's no proof she's done anything wrong, but they dismiss her anyway. That's kind of not fair, is it? Because so now we're finding out she didn't do anything wrong, but Miss Hill engineered this situation to make it look like she did so that she could get her off because she wasn't sure which way she was going to go. Okay. After she was dismissed, Judge Newman said, "Oh boy, I'm not too pleased about the clerk interrogating a juror as opposed to coming to me and bringing it to me." Okay. I'd like to hear that. I do vaguely remember him making some remarks after she'd left, but I don't rightly remember specifically what he said. To go back and see. The next day, on March the 1st, the jury visited Moselle, the site of the murders. During the visit, four-person juror 826 and Miss Hill walked off to have yet another private conversation. In her book, Miss Hill more vaguely hints at communicating her opinion on Mr. Murdaugh's guilt to the jury during the visit to the Moselle property. So while the jurors viewed the Moselle property, we all could hear and see Alex's story was impossible. Some of us, either from the courthouse, law enforcement, or jury at Moselle, had an epiphany. So some of us, either from the courthouse, law enforcement, or jury at Moselle, had an epiphany and shared our thoughts with our eyes. At that moment, many of us standing there knew, I knew, and they knew that Alex was guilty. Okay. That day, Judge Newman also held an in-camera conference regarding the tenant/co-worker email in which he decided to revisit the Facebook post issue with Miss Hill. Thank you, Jean. Thank you for the €10. Thank you so much. I can like that one. I can love it. I mean, look, she shouldn't have written that in her book. She really shouldn't. I mean, there's no law to say that she can't write a book. But I'm not sure that the clerk of the court should be saying stuff like that. I mean, she didn't know what the jury were thinking, or at least she shouldn't have done, which maybe is the defence's point. They've got a point, they really do. It's just these details I can't get my head around. Thank you, Jane. Thank you for the £5. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, moving on. Let me just clear that. Okay, the court. So this is the judge. Okay. Well, let me see what Becky's talking about. I wanted to revisit. Let me see what Becky's talking about. I wanted to revisit the Facebook post that you mentioned yesterday. Miss Hill. Right. That's Becky Hill, clerk of the court. Can you tell us about that Facebook post? Yes, I think it was Friday evening. Just for a brief moment, I perused Facebook, got on Walterborough word of mouth, and saw where someone had said that, well, it was the ex-husband of a juror, and he said that he noticed that his ex-wife was saying that she was on the jury and saying stuff about how her verdict was going to be, and that he was the ex-husband and she was known for talking way too much. And then I just kept scrolling because that was enough for me. I've gotten enough. So screenshot it then. And how did you determine what he was talking about? When I heard there was an email on Monday, I figured the two went together, if it was true. Well, she's confirmed that she has an ex-husband who she has 3 restraining orders out against. So, right. So then we looked on Monday after you told me to try to go back and look for it, and we couldn't find it. But then we found out his name, and we found the post and printed it out where he said that he had put something up, but that he had deleted it. At the time, he had put stuff out there that wasn't nice. He said he got drunk afterwards. Something about the devil. So this is Mr. Meadows, right? Says something about the devil. Mr. Harpootlian, didn't he say it was Satan in it? Satan was in it, yes. In all the details, yes. All right. Made me do it. So Satan made me do it. Okay. I just wanted to have that on record. You're reading a Facebook post by the ex-husband who said it. Of course, you haven't talked with him, so you don't know where he got his information from. I don't. I can find it, though. Well, she can't find it because it's gone. Miss Hill never saw any such Facebook post, but she might have seen a Facebook post that the other Timothy Stone had talked about. We just don't know one way or another. We can never prove it one way or another. We can never prove it. We can never prove what that Facebook post said. because it was deleted and it wasn't even the right Timothy Storm. She didn't make it up. It was just deleted. And the person who made it apologized. But we don't know. We'll never know. Further, she knew that the apology post was not posted by Juror 785's ex-husband. Juror 785 showed Miss Hill a picture of her ex-husband, which was not the Facebook profile picture of the other Mr. Stone's post. Dear God. The next day, March the 2nd, the day of the verdict, Juror 785 received a call from her ex-husband and she did not answer. The call upset her because Miss Hill's lies had led her to believe he was posting on Facebook about her and he might be stalking her. 785 asked to speak with Miss Hill. She told Miss Hill she was scared. Miss Hill told her that the Murdaughs probably got to him, meaning her ex-husband. But at this point, it's irrelevant what she said to 785. It's irrelevant at this point because 785 is no longer on the jury. So if Miss Hill said that, doesn't matter. It's of no consequence to the outcome because 785 can now talk to who she wants because she's taken off. She did not take part in the deliberations. She was dismissed. So she could talk to Miss Hill or anybody else. Miss Hill could talk to her. It's only the jury, the ones that are still there, that have the, quote unquote gag order on, that they're not allowed to talk to anyone. Miss Hill once again asked her opinion regarding Mr. Murdaugh's guilt. Doesn't matter what she says because she's no longer on the jury. Juror 785 said that Creighton Water's closing was good, but that she still had questions. Miss Hill asked her what questions, and Juror 785 replied that she was concerned that no murder weapon was found. Miss Hill then asked, well, what makes you think he's guilty? So she said Paul's video at the dog kennels, that everything Mr. Murdaugh said has been lies and that I should forget about the guns. So Miss Hill told Juror 785, hold on. So this is the day of the verdict. So they're speaking the day of the verdict. So whatever this conversation, what Miss Hill's saying here to Juror 785, none of it's relevant because she's not deliberating. So Miss Hill asked Juror about the views of the rest of the jury, telling her that if the foreperson would just go in and ask for a raising hands, this would be over and done with, and everybody needs to be on the same page. None of that's relevant to the outcome. Hold on. Juror 785 went in the jury room 10 minutes later, was excused from the jury. But this says the next day, March the 2nd, the day of the verdict. So all of this is relating to March the 2nd, the day of the verdict. So the day of the verdict is the day that they were deliberating. So was this before she was dismissed? I'm confused. So this was before she was dismissed. Okay. So they deliberated for about 3 hours. So it could be. I'm wrong here. So she's still technically still in play when this conversation was said, if this was said. So this is still in play. But then she was dismissed. In open court, immediately after her excusal, 785 asked Judge Newman if he had spoken to the clerk of the court, referring to the conversation earlier that morning that Miss Hill... In open court, immediately after her excusal, 785 asked Judge Newman if he had spoken with the clerk of the court. referring to the conversation earlier that morning with Miss Hill. Video of trial proceedings, March the 2nd, available here. Okay, but okay. But no, it isn't. That just takes me to YouTube. That doesn't take me to a video. That takes me to YouTube. Oh, I've lost my place now. Hold on, maybe I have to copy it. Maybe if I copied the link and posted it in. Hold on, where are we? Keep scrolling. There we go. It's not gonna. Oh man, it's not gonna let me copy that link. Anyway, it's not gonna let me copy it. Save link as, open link in new tab. I don't remember this. I don't remember this being said in open court. Okay, so Chasing's saying, yes, because remember, Judge said the clerk interrogated her. I'm going to have to go back and listen to this. I'm going to have to go back and listen to this again. So Judge Newman responded, I have not spoken with her today, and this is totally independent of any conversation regarding her ex-husband, apparently misunderstanding her question to refer to the issue of the Facebook post. When the jury began deliberating that evening, Miss Hill told them that this should not take us long, and that if they deliberated past 11 p.m., they would be taken directly to a hotel, even though none were prepared to stay overnight. So she's getting them to hurry up, right? Additionally, smokers on the jury asked to be allowed to take smoke breaks, as they had previously been allowed to do during the 6-week trial. Yeah, but they've not been allowed just to pop out for a smoke every time they fancied it. They've had to wait for an allocated break time, haven't they? They can't just nip out when they want to. Miss Hill told them they could not smoke until deliberations were complete. So we had this conversation yesterday. In the deliberations we had, there was no mention of taking breaks, no mention of a smoke break. There was even no mention of a lunch break, but we didn't go that far. It only took us an hour and a half. So it would have been interesting to work, to work through it for longer to see what breaks we would have had. Just keep this thing going to see when they'll give us a break. But it's bad if she told them they couldn't have a smoke break and they had to hurry up. I mean, that's bad. There were 6 smokers on the jury. Miss Hill told jurors that after the trial, they would be famous and predicted that the media would request interviews with them. Miss Hill even handed out reporters' business cards to jurors during the trial. Oh, dear. Dear me. Juror 578 took this to heart and made an appearance on Good Morning America the night of the verdict. I remember that. Which is why on the day the jury began deliberations, he wore a suit coat for the first time during the trial. After the verdict and immediately before sentencing, Miss Hill pressured the jury to speak up as a group to reporters from a network news show. She travelled with jurors to New York when they appeared on the Today Show. She got her book deal. Her book, Behind the Doors of Justice, was released on August the 1st. I'm still not convinced that this is like this massive book deal. I'm not that convinced. I'd be interested to know how many books she sold. Yeah, I do, Cammy. Feel bad for Judge Newman. I mean, dear me. The last point about Miss Hill's efforts to promote her book shows her dishonest efforts to profit from the trial continued well after the verdict. Film crew negotiated a contract with the Colleton County Sheriff's Office to use courthouse bailiffs to provide security while they filmed a documentary at the Colleton County Courthouse. To be fair, that's nothing to do with it. That's nothing to do with it. Anything that happened after the verdict does not mean that Alec Murdaugh should get a new trial. It didn't affect, nothing that happened after that verdict did not affect Alec Murdaugh. So whether the sheriff's department used courthouse bailiffs, they could have got them to dance all the way down the high street and back wearing tutus and ballet shoes, and none of that would have affected the verdict. So nothing relevant here. The film crew previously recorded an interview with Miss Hill. On May 9th, Miss Hill sent a memorandum to the film crew purported to be an addendum to the contract. Irrelevant, after the verdict. In it, she demanded that the film crew pay Colleton County a fee of $1,000 per day. None of this is irrelevant. None of this is relevant. Okay. Legal standard. A defendant in a criminal prosecution is constitutionally guaranteed a fair trial by an impartial jury, and in order to fully safeguard this protection, it is required that the jury render its verdict free from outside influence. Of course, we don't need to be told that. That's true. When the defendant presents a credible allegation of communication or contact between a third party and a juror concerning the matter pending before the jury, the defendant has an entitlement to an evidentiary hearing. Okay. If the defendant proves the alleged contacts occurred, the prosecution bears the burden to show that they were harmless. So were these harmless? Well, certainly anything that happened after the verdict is harmless. It didn't affect the verdict in any way, shape, or form. So potentially getting a juror who is who isn't sure which way she's going to go yet, dismissed, makes sense for someone to do if they want that defendant to be proven guilty. So if the defendant proves the alleged contacts occurred, so all they've got to find is that these contacts occurred. It's the prosecution that bears the burden to show they were harmless. If this is found true, can Becky get time in jail? I don't know. I don't know what penalty would be. I would imagine at the very least she'd lose her job. I mean, jury tampering, the criminal. I feel that it should be criminal. That's true. After O.J. Simpson, everybody wrote a book or did interviews. They did. Yeah. So the presumption is even stronger when the contact is made by a court official. Okay, well, there's private communication of the court official to members of the jury, an occurrence which cannot be tolerated if the sanctity of the jury system is to be maintained. A new trial must be granted unless it clearly appears that the subject matter of the communication was harmless and could not have affected the verdict. So, if the prosecution can prove that these communications were harmless, then no new trial. Other cases that she was involved in can be reviewed. Yeah, they should be. I mean, I would imagine that just run-of-the-mill cases where there's no benefit if it's not a high-profile case, unless she had a personal dislike to somebody, should be obstructing justice. It should. I don't know. I don't know how the law lies in South Carolina related to this kind of stuff. I don't know. But I would imagine if this is proven, then she'll lose her job at the very least. So, argument. State official Rebecca Hill, the elected clerk of court, has extensive private communications with members of the jury. Allegation is supported by sworn affidavits of jurors and a witness to juror interviews, testimony at an in-camera proceeding, and other evidence, including Miss Hill's own book. The court, therefore, must hold a REMA evidentiary hearing. Well, they should. Let's hold a hearing. Let's do a hearing. Right? We want a hearing. We all agree. Let's do a hearing. Let's have the cameras in there. We want to see this. We want to see this hearing. We want to hear them all speak. If the allegations are proven at the evidentiary hearing, because this was my question yesterday before I saw this. Like, who decides? Who decides? Does it go to Court of Appeal? What judge decides? So they're answering my question from yesterday here, that this is how it must go. So the court must hold a REMA evidentiary hearing. Okay. So if the allegations are proven, then under binding appellate precedent, the court must grant a new trial unless it clearly appears that the subject matter of the communication was harmless and would not have affected the verdict. Subject matter of Miss Hill's communications was the evidence being presented at trial by the defence. These improper comments and efforts to influence the jury's verdict. Yeah, I get it. If these are proven, I do believe there should be a new trial. If it can be proven. But the prosecution have the burden to prove that this was harmless. The outcome. Testify. Yeah, they would. They could be subpoenaed, yeah. Okay. In a 6-week trial, people will talk when they should not. They will say things when they should not say. Mistakes will be made. Participants in a trial are fallible human beings. Lawyers combing the proceedings after the fact will always find they made mistakes and errors. If that was enough to force a redo of the trial, no verdict would stand and trials would be repeated forever. To avoid that, courts properly strain to find that mistakes made during trials are harmless, meaning that they did not change the result. But the issues now before the court are not the ordinary and inevitable mistakes that occur in any trial. The issue here is that an elected state official engaged in intentional misconduct, deliberately violating a defendant's constitutional right to a fair trial before an impartial jury. Well, Yeah. For example, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read the court stuff. Okay. So in this case, the court declared that on the record that the verdict that you, the jury, reached was supported by the evidence, circumstantial evidence, direct evidence, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm going to skip some of this. I've got a link to this in the description box, by the way. So if you want to go and read all the bits that I'm missing out yourself, you can do. So instead, the law requires the subject matter of the communication to be harmless, clearly harmless. Asking the jury what it wants for lunch is clearly harmless. Telling it's okay. A Supreme Court recently made this point. State versus Green. In Green jury deliberations, a juror asked the bailiff what would happen in the event of a deadlock, and he responded the judge would likely give them an Allen charge and asked if they could stay later. The Court of Appeal held the bailiff's comment was presumptively prejudicial because of his official position, but that the state reviewed that presumption by showing for various reasons that the remark did not in fact influence the outcome of the deliberations. So telling them that they couldn't have a smoking break, would that have influenced their decision? Would that have influenced the outcome? Telling them that it shouldn't take too long to reach a verdict, did that change their outcome? These are the things that they will consider. Like, is it harmless to tell someone that they shouldn't take too long, and then they sit down and they realize that it is going to take them longer than they thought? Does that change the outcome? If there's 6 smokers on the jury, so half of them are smokers, does telling them they can't have a smoke break hurry them up? Yes, it will hurry them up. I do believe it will hurry them up. But will that change the outcome? Will it mean that they might skip over some of the evidence? But if they've already got that key evidence in their mind, you know, because they've sat there for 6 weeks, and yes, this is the first time that they've had the opportunity to pore over it with other people and discuss it in detail with other people. But if collectively each of them has points in mind that they want to discuss that they're not sure about, would they become the most important points? If they wanted to hurry up, they're not going to mull over all the stuff in which they're sure about. They want to mull over the stuff that they're not sure about. So will making them hurry up change the outcome? That's the kind of, I'm not going to answer that question. I have no idea. But that's the kind of thing that they'll have to determine. Like, what's the definition of harmless? If it was harmful to the potential outcome that smokers, half of the jury, hurried up and may have skipped over some points, if that's harmful, then yes, that's a point towards getting a new trial. If Becky Hill telling them that it wouldn't take too long was harmful, I would imagine that the smoking issue is more potentially harmful than telling them it shouldn't take too long. Telling them it shouldn't take too long is, you know, that's just her opinion. If they sat down as a group and decided that it was going to take them longer than Becky Hill thought, well, so be it. But if half of them are thinking, oh, no, I'm not going to be able to have a smoke if we're here for the next 12 hours, and then they're told that if they go past 11, then Judge Newman is going to make them stay, and none of them had overnight stuff. So they're going to have to, go to a hotel and wear the same clothes that they had on the day before. So that's going to hurry them up. Is that harmful? Potentially. That would hurry me up, I'd have to say. If somebody told me that if it went past 11, I was going to have to stay and I wasn't prepared for it, that would hurry me up. That really would hurry me up. Whether it would change my verdict, though, is another matter. But potentially, I think those are more pertinent issues. What she actually told them shortly before they deliberated, how she tried to hurry them up, the things she might have done to get them to hurry up, to dissuade them from really digging into the evidence and just saying, oh yeah, he's guilty. That's potentially more harmful than this Facebook post that may or may not have been from her ex-husband. Those are bigger problems for potential harmfulness of the affecting the outcome than a Facebook post. In my opinion. That's just my opinion. Okay, telling the jury not to believe the defendant's defense or his testimony when he testifies. That's bad as well. If that happened, if she was making kind of snide comments, you know, about the defense or about Alec kind of pretend crying, that's bad. That's really bad, gotta say. So this document is, apart from the Facebook stuff, which I find absolutely bizarre, this is more convincing as to at least they need to. I think they will do a hearing. They'll have to investigate this. They've no option. They'll have to investigate this. But this is more worrying actually reading it than listening to them speaking at that press conference. I don't think they spoke well at all. I think they were very condescending. They were, I just, maybe that's just them. I don't know. So, okay. So unlike the honest mistakes of the bailiffs in those cases, Miss Hill had many private conversations with jurors about the merits of the case. She asked jurors about their opinion of Mr. Murdaugh's guilt or innocence. She instructed them not to believe evidence presented in Mr. Murdaugh's defense, including his own testimony. She lied to the judge to remove a juror she believed might not vote guilty. She pressured jurors to reach a verdict quickly so she could profit from it. I don't think it was to do with profiting. I think that's their assumption. I think it's more likely she did it because she didn't like Alec Murdaugh. She just didn't like Alec Murdaugh. I don't know. But each of these actions violated Miss Hill's oath of office. And if it's true, it absolutely is. Her responsibility to the citizenry and the judiciary of the state, and Mr. Murdaugh's constitutional right to a fair and impartial jury. The law applied to these facts requires a new trial. At this moment, it requires a hearing. It requires careful investigation and a hearing that we can all watch, and then whoever presides over that can then decide based on the facts. So they want a hearing, an evidentiary hearing to receive proof of the facts stated above. Yes, I agree. I agree. Okay, so these are the exhibits, the affidavit here. Okay, so we're going to read these. Okay, so I was juror 630 in the case. Towards the end of the trial, after President's Day break, before Mr. Murdaugh testified. Clerk of Court Rebecca Hill told the jury not to be fooled by the evidence presented, which I understood to mean Mr. Murdaugh would lie when he testified. He did lie. In my opinion. In my opinion. Oh, interesting. The lady who helped write her book was someone she rented an Airbnb from. So clearly being a clerk for the trial was important to her if she disclosed it to someone she barely knew. There's problems here. There really is. It's the ending the book required. She was playing God. It concerns me, though, as I said yesterday, just the thought of Senator Harpootlian going about Colleton County in his Mercedes, knocking on jurors' doors. That concerns me. It concerns me how intimidating that must have been for some people to have a senator turn up at your door in Murdaugh country. What's the name of the book? It's this book here. This is the book. Where's it gone? There. Behind the Doors of Justice, the Murdaugh Murders. So there you go. That's what it's called. So Rebecca Hill, author, narrator. Neil Gordon, author. Wind River Media, LLC, publisher. Listening length, 4 hours, 31 minutes. If you want the audio version. How many pages is it? Where's the pages? Oh, maybe I have to go here. Okay. Page length, 258 pages. From the beginning to end, here is the truth about the Alec Murdaugh double murder trial from a courthouse insider who witnessed it all and more. That's what Nancy Grace said. This book is not only historically significant, it's well written and a treat, said Rhonda Rich. The inside view really gives the reader insight into it, into this trial of the century. Let's see, getting Nancy Grace to give you a quote. Has anybody bought it? Is it worth the read? Oh, look. Becky Hill has known the Murdaugh family for decades. Family members of Becky's were involved in the moonshine conspiracy together in the 1950s, where Buster Murdaugh was later indicted and then acquitted. So they got history. How is, right, guys, how is doing the trial in Colleton County where the court officials know the Murdaughs, how is that fair? For either side, how is that fair? This needs to be, if there's a retrial, it needs to be 100, 120, 150 miles away, out of Murdaugh country, so there's no potential for this. The court officials know the family. For years, Becky has known about the rumours of corruption and crime surrounding the Murdaugh family. These accusations came and went, nothing sticking long enough to bring clarity or a clear conviction. Becky had also known of the good deeds done by the Murdaughs. She was there when Randolph Murdaugh received the Order of the Palmetto, the highest order bestowed on a civilian by the governor of South Carolina. What she didn't know was that Richard Alexander Murdaugh was capable of murdering his own wife and son. Serving as the clerk of court at the time of the trial, she was present in the courtroom in the case. Now, that's worrying. Family members of Becky's were involved in the moonshine conspiracy together in the 1950s, where Buster Murdaugh was later indicted and then acquitted. So that's his granddaddy, isn't it? Or is that his daddy? Yeah, his daddy or his granddaddy? No, Randolph. Randolph's his daddy. Buster's his granddaddy, I think. I know Randolph's his daddy anyway. Ha. Bad blood, Christy, yeah. That may be true. Her family got convicted and he got away with it. There we go. That could be it. Well, there's a little rabbit hole to go down. If we thought Beach Creek was bad enough for everybody's related to everybody else, imagine living in Murdaugh country where you've got this one family who is known to everyone and has been up to all sorts of things for generations. And then you get situations like this. So maybe in the moonshine conspiracy, her family members who were involved in it got convicted. So it may be her granddaddy or somebody may have got convicted. And this has come down in the stories in the family. And then Buster Murdaugh got away with it. Maybe that's worth looking into. Anyway. Okay. All right. So the foreperson, 826, criticised the former foreperson, 589, for handing Mr. Murdaugh a box of tissues, stating that's what the defence wants us to do. The jury frequently discussed the case during breaks before deliberations. I don't think that's unusual. I don't think that's unusual. Toward the end of the trial, Miss Hill came in the jury room a lot. Miss Hill and the foreperson had private conversation on multiple occasions. So Miss Hill would arrive, then she and the foreperson would go into another room and have a private conversation. If that's true, that's bad. That conversations typically last 5-10 minutes. So never said anything about the content of the conversation. She never communicated logistical information after those conversations. This happened 2 or more times, more frequently towards the end of the trial. When we began deliberations, Miss Hill told us this shouldn't take too long, and if we deliberated past 11, we would be taken to a hotel. We had driven from our homes that morning and were not prepared to stay overnight. Additionally, smokers on the jury asked to be allowed to take smoke breaks, were told they could not smoke until deliberations were complete. That could be, if that's a rule of the court, though, that could be in her defense. That could be the rule of the court. We don't know. I can't imagine it being a rule of the court. Because surely, if you're deliberating for hours and hours and hours on end, you're going to need a break. I don't know. I had questions about Mr. Murdaugh's guilt, but voted guilty because I felt pressured by the other jurors. So you felt pressured by the other jurors. You see, that's not saying that this person felt pressure from what Miss Hill had said, though. because if you're the only one who feels, so say you sat around deliberating and you're the only one who feels that they're not guilty, then you're going to feel pressured. You are going to feel pressured. I mean, in the case that I was on the jury of, when we went to deliberate, we did a show of hands, and 10 of us thought that they were guilty. We were given the options of murder or manslaughter. So if we didn't feel that they were guilty of murder, then we could go for manslaughter, that they didn't mean to kill him. They killed him, but they didn't mean to do it. And one person thought that it was manslaughter. And then one person thought they were innocent, completely innocent. So the person who thought it was manslaughter changed her mind when, because I'd seen something on the CCTV. So the CCTV that really would have captured everything, it was one of those cameras that panned. It panned to different like locations. And just before the altercation kicked off, this camera that had a really clear view panned away. So the only camera that had a direct view of the whole thing was on a building that was right the way down the street. So when you saw the CCTV in the courtroom, you couldn't really see, you could just see kind of pixels moving. So I clocked, we were like given a laptop and we were allowed to like look over all the CCTV and all the exhibits and everything. And I clocked which kind of bit I wanted to look at once we were given, given the floor to deliberate. And I went straight to this to have a look for myself because I could see pixels moving. So when I could actually see it on a screen and like increase the brightness of the screen as much as I could, you could clearly see in the top left-hand corner. So you couldn't see it properly in the court. You could just see pixels moving, but you could see them kicking him. You could see them hoofing, boom, boom, boom. Like you couldn't really see what was on the ground. You just knew that it was him on the ground because you saw someone fall over, and then you could see them making these kicking motions. So as soon as I showed the juror who thought it was manslaughter this, and I said, come over and have a look at this. What do you think now? And she went, oh my God, that's, and she changed. But the one who thought that they were innocent absolutely maintained she would not swear. She would not swear. Now, the judge said that he would accept a 10-2. So 10 guilty, whatever. But he wasn't going to tell us how many hours he would let us go before he'd accept a 10-2. Because judges have the option, right? They can say, you've got to be unanimous, or they can say, well, it's a majority. They can decide. And the judge said, I'm not going to tell you how many hours. And she just sat down and she said, I could keep you here for 8 hours. I could keep you here till tomorrow. This is what this juror was saying. And she said, it's not going to change the outcome. She said, because it'll be an 11-1. I'm not going to change my mind. You're not going to change your minds. Therefore, whatever. So I went and knocked on the door and asked for the clerk. And she came and I said, we've reached a verdict. And we went in. And she was absolutely adamant that they were innocent. And she went home. Straight after she went home, I stayed for the sentencing. Sentencing was the same day. A few others stayed for the sentencing. She went. And she obviously felt pressured. But she realized that she was on a losing side. Well, I say losing side, but an opposing side, and it's not going to make any difference to the outcome. But if the judge had said, I'm not going to accept anything other than a unanimous verdict, we'd have had a hung jury based on that one person. So it's the other jurors. And that I think that's normal. I think it's normal to have a disagreement or one juror feeling pressured. But the issue isn't that this person felt pressured by other jurors. It's that they felt pressured by Miss Hill's actions. And that's not what this affidavit is saying. So, no, this is after the verdict and immediately before sentencing. What? Well, that's irrelevant. We don't care about this. After the verdict and immediately before sentencing, Miss Hill pressured the jury to speak as a group. That's irrelevant. We're only interested in the outcome for Alec Murdaugh. We're not interested in what Miss Hill did after. So pressured by other jurors is not the effects of Miss Hill's actions, in my opinion. So this is now Holly Miller. So on August 6, 2023, Dick Harpootley and Jim Griffin and I met with juror 741. Okay. At the meeting on August 6th, such person indicated she would sign an affidavit. However, we were unable to arrange with her a suitable time and place. Okay, so this is some, right. Personally appeared before me, Holly Miller. Okay. So Jim Griffin, Dick Harpootley, and I, Holly, met with juror 741. So they're removing her name, or his name. So at the meeting, so 741 indicated she was signing an affidavit. However, we were unable to arrange with her to meet. During the meeting, 741 relayed the following information to us. So this isn't even an affidavit from 741. This is, in my opinion, this is juror 741 begrudgingly attending a meeting because maybe they felt they should do or felt pressured into, and then they couldn't find a time and place to sign an affidavit. So this is someone who was with Dick Harpootley and Jim Griffin. Not juror 741. This is not juror 741's affidavit. This is Holly Miller's affidavit, who's just saying what juror 741 said. So they could throw this out. During the trial, she witnessed the clerk of court, Becky Hill, come into the jury room, and Miss Hill and the foreperson, went into the bathroom. Several times during the trial, Miss Hill told jurors the media want to interview jurors. And one of these conversations, she passed out business cards. I mean, that's not relevant either to the outcome. Passing out business cards, saying at the end of the trial, media might want to speak to them. And obviously they knew that because this is a very high profile case. So they knew that. That's not affecting the outcome. Right before the defense put up their case, Miss Hill told the jurors, y'all are going to hear things that throw you off. Don't let them distract or mislead you. After Alex testified, 8 jurors indicated they did not believe his testimony. Okay. So blank recalled blank juror 544, known as Boston by many of the jurors, was very emotional during the trial. During the visit to Moselle, juror 826 and blank walked to the scene together. Then juror 826 began walking with the clerk of court, Becky Hill. There were times the jurors were not kept together, but were in 2 separate rooms. Blank noticed jurors were talking about the case before deliberations. Neither she nor blank, juror 785, joined in. conversations by Alex. As the jury was deliberating, she believes Judge Newman came into the room she was in and told her the jury would have to spend the night at the hotel. So it was Judge Newman. So as the jury was deliberating, so this is the juror recounting that Judge Newman came into the room she was in and told her the jury would have to spend the night at a hotel if they did not have the vote by a certain time, but she does not recall the time deadline. So it's Judge Newman. So, no, we don't know who Holly Miller is, Christy. Holly Miller could just be a friend of Dick and Jim. We've no idea who Holly Miller is. She's probably a secretary of Jim or Dick's law firm or something. We've no idea who she is. We've no idea. So this is nonsense. So she believes Judge Newman came in. So it wasn't Becky who told them they'd have to stay over. It was Judge Newman. So 741 was the first former juror to provide information that the clerk of court made statements to members of the jury about the evidence presented during the trial. So why has 741 not signed their own affidavit? Why? Is it because juror 741 felt pressured and then changed their mind? Don't know. So draft transcript of record excerpts in camera conference. I think we've read this in the text. So this is about the Facebook. So I'm not going to read all that again. So he got drunk afterwards. So all this we've read. I think there's a little bit more here. Just wanted to have that on record. You're reading a Facebook post by the ex-husband. I don't know if I can find it though. So Mr. Fernandez, we do know his name for what it's worth. The court, do you think he will be sober? I don't know. Probably not, if I had to guess. Mr. Harpootlian, it's Wednesday. Well, today... Mr. Harpootlian says, it's Wednesday. Well, it's today, Tuesday or Wednesday. Mr. Fernandez says Wednesday. Oh, dear. I don't know why I'm laughing, because I get the days wrong all the time. Well, it's Wednesday night, so he'll... Oh, we don't know. It goes... That's funny. That's funny that they've left that in. So we've got excerpts from her book. Okay. Oh, I'm not reading all this. I'm not reading these. I can't read that. That's too much. Okay, so we've got excerpts from her book. There's Exhibit D. There's a lot of this. Hey, she could get done for copyright in here. Well, the jurors viewed them as sale property. We could all hear and see Alex's story was impossible. God gives us all the gifts, and the gifts of discernment is shared by many. Some of us, either from the courthouse, law enforcement, and jury at Moselle, had an epiphany and shared our thoughts. Once we were all back inside our vehicles, heavy-hearted and contemplative, our procession headed back along Highway 63 towards the town centre of Walterborough. The wind had died down mysteriously, and the sun began to shine through the clouds. One of the roles of the clerk of court is to be Switzerland between the jury, the lawyers, the public, and any other entities involved. In the moments riding back in our vehicle and with the jurors and decision makers in other vehicles, we were just regular people, and our thoughts spilled out. Just as the jury would do in a span of 3 hours, we unanimously came to our own verdict in just 3 minutes. Guilty. She could say, I came to the decision he was guilty. She can't speak for anybody else. All right, Exhibit E, Timothy Stone's Facebook post. So this is the Facebook post that replaces the fictitious ones. Reminds me of the Ozarks. Ozark's a good show on Netflix. Or are you talking about the actual Ozarks, like the actual place? So we've read that in the thing, but the original post can't be fictitious because this replaces it, whatever it was. But we don't know. We've learned that that's not even her ex-husband. That's someone else. Why apologise for something that you really meant? You meant what you said. Apologies, someone. Dear me. Oh, dear me. Oh, these are all these replies. Don't need all the replies, do we? Exhibit F, affidavit of Tim Stone. All right. Which Tim Stone, though? Which Tim Stone? Okay. All right. Tim Stone. I am the ex-husband of, so 785. I did not post anything to the Facebook group Walterborough Word of Mouth between January 23rd and March 2nd. I did not post anything to this social media page or my own Facebook social media about her being a juror that was talking way too much to friends and family about the case, or that Satan has gotten a hold of me and I'd been drinking at the time. Posted, I'm now very sorry. Nor did I post what is attached as Exhibit A, which has been represented to me to be an alleged post to the Walterborough Word of Mouth Facebook page and a court exhibit in the state of South Carolina v. Richard Alexander Murdaugh trial. I do not have a Facebook page set up as Timothy Stone. My profile name is Tim Stone and my Facebook page is that. Was never contacted by law enforcement, the South Carolina Attorney General's office, the clerk of the court, Becky Hill, or anyone at the Colleton County Clerk of Court's office. Okay. I did not know 785 was on the Murdaugh jury until I heard her voice and a recording when she was excused as a juror and she was discussing something about eggs. All right, well, let the hearing sort that one out. Dear me. So that's that post again. I honestly don't care at this point. I think there's way more problematic things than that Facebook post, which whatever it might have said. Exhibit G, affidavit of P. Barber. Okay, all right, so this is an attorney. I am an attorney in the firm of Richard A. Harpootlian and counsel of record for Alec. On August 18th, I met with Tim Stone at his home. He provided his Facebook login information and allowed me to download a copy of all of his Facebook activity from Jan 23rd to March 2nd. A true copy is downloaded as Exhibit A. The contents of the download speak for themselves, but review of them shows no post was made on February 16th, apologising for a previous post. There are no posts whatsoever in the Facebook group Walterborough Word of Mouth. Facebook's stated retention policy for deleted posts is 30 days, and any post deleted in the period 23rd to March 2nd will not be recoverable. Okay. Affidavit of Juror 785. Okay, I was Juror 785. Okay, during the presentation of the defence case after President's Day, but before Mr. Murdaugh testified in his own defence, Colleton County Clerk Rebecca Hill told jurors not to be fooled by the evidence presented by the jury. Presented to the jury, sorry. In late February, Miss Hill questioned me about a Facebook post on the Walterborough Word of Mouth page. She summoned me to speak with her alone in the office in the courthouse. She told me someone emailed her about a post my ex-husband, Tim Stone, purportedly made, which reportedly stated I had made comments about him, blah, 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 blah. Miss Hill said the post had been drinking, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we know all this. We know all this. Okay, like that day, Miss Hill told me Sled and Colleton County personnel went to my husband's house. Did not know about the apology referencing Satan until Miss Hill's book was published. I have since reviewed that post and can definitely say the post is not by my ex-husband. He does not go by Timothy. The profile picture is not him, and the phrasing of the post is not phrasing he would use. It appears to be a post by another person who happens to have the same name. It does not appear to be a post to the Walterborough Word of Mouth Facebook page. So what the hell? Oh dear. Dear me. Okay, so day of the verdict. Got a call from her ex-husband, getting the bus, travelled to the with the jurors, did not answer. Phone call upset me greatly. Asked to speak with the clerk. Okay, told her I was scared. She said the Murdaughs probably got to him. Okay. Miss Hill then asked me questions. All right, so we've heard all that. We've read all that. That's all in the text there. I'm not reading all that again. 10 minutes later, was excused. 2 weeks later, I did answer a call from my ex-husband. I angrily confronted him about the post. Okay, we don't care about that. On one day during my jury service, approximately 1 or 2 weeks before the verdict, juror 864 and 826 were in a single toilet unisex bathroom together for an extended period. They were known to do so frequently to discuss the case. Juror 729 referred to it as A&D time. In the van going to the courthouse, juror 864 and Special Agent David Owen. What? In the van going to the courthouse, juror 864 said Special Agent David Owen lied on the stand, but that nothing would happen to him. Okay. When we visited the Moselle crime scene, Miss Hill and juror 826 walked off together, avoiding other jurors in order to have a private conversation. I own a rental property, which is leased to two tenants, Deborah Webb and Clifford Dandridge. On Saturday, February 18th, I delivered a refrigerator to the property. I was removed from the jury on the day of the verdict because a co-worker of Miss Webb purportedly said I expressed an opinion on Mr. Murdaugh's guilt or innocence while delivering the refrigerator. Is this a refrigerator to put the eggs in? I mean, we could have to do you put eggs in a fridge or not? I mean, personally, I don't eat eggs, but if you eat eggs, do you put them in a fridge or not? It's an ongoing debate amongst many circles. The court now calls satin to the witness box. I don't know whether you spelt that purposefully wrong or not. The court now calls satin to the witness box. Or do lines. Oh, I can't. Whoever said it was a shit show before was right. Okay, so we've got Fridgegate now. We should get Don Wells in. Give the fridge a good beating. It's the fridge's fault. The fridge did it. As you removed from the jury on the day of the verdict because of blah, 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 I've spread that. I expressed an opinion. Miss Webb then worked at Domino's Pizza in Walterborough, so the co-worker would be some employee of Domino's Pizza in Walterborough. I do not know whether Miss Webb actually made any such statements at Domino's Pizza or whether a co-worker actually heard any such statement. After I was dismissed from the jury, I spoke with Miss Webb and Mr. Dandridge, who both vehemently stated to me and my husband that the affidavit the prosecution drafted for their signature was not what they said to him. What? After I was dismissed from the jury, I spoke with Miss Webb and Mr. Dandridge, who both vehemently stated to me and my husband that the affidavits the prosecution drafted for their signature was not what they said to him. Does that make any sense? They told me Sled showed up at their home at 10 p.m. after they were asleep, removed them from the home, put them in separate cars, and questioned them. Mr. Dandridge said he told them I did not say anything about Mr. Murdaugh's guilt or innocence. Sled returned 30 minutes later, again woke them up from their beds to serve subpoenas on them to appear in court the next day. How is any of this relevant? You did, Zoot. Good. This is just a soap opera now. This does not change the outcome of the jury for Alec Murdaugh. This is just superfluous words. This is not relevant. They arrived at the courthouse the next day. They were held for 9 hours until 6 p.m. when SLED officers or the prosecutor finally presented typed affidavits to them saying they were the statements from the previous night and that had been recorded by dash cams in the patrol cars. They said they had signed affidavits without reading them. I previously testified I never discussed the merits of Mr. Murdaugh's case with Miss Webb, Mr. Dandridge, or any person present, nor did I express an opinion of Mr. Murdaugh's guilt or innocence while delivering the refrigerator or during any other. So she's pissed off that she didn't get to deliberate. Okay, records from the in-camera conference on Feb 28th. Okay. So have you put anything on Facebook? Not regarding the case. Put a positive post on. I gave Miss Becky my full access to my Facebook. I've put positive posts on and all that for the past 3 years. But has anyone posted anything on Facebook about you? I wasn't aware of it until Miss Becky told me today. What did she tell me? She asked me if I had an ex-husband. Oh, yeah, okay. Restraining orders, so he basically up to no good. I wouldn't say that, I'd say a lot worse, but that's a nice way to put it. Okay. Noodle, what are you doing? Scraping his corn along the wall. I was very upset after she told me that. And that. Okay, so she's not seeing the ex-husband. Right. Wow. Miss Becky said she went to look for the post again and it had been deleted. Oh, we know all this. And just tell you that. Oh, let's read this. Okay, she was discussing with. She pulled me aside, and when we went downstairs after the last break, I want to say it was after lunch, and we came back. That's when she first told me about it. And then when we went back into court, I was kind of screening the audience to make sure that my ex wasn't out there. And she came downstairs after that break and told me that she'd found out he was drunk and made a drunk post. And I don't know what happened from there. I have no clue. And I work at the monkey farm. Monkey farm. What do you do there? I work in the lab for the lab. All I do is watch monkeys. It's a testing facility where they try and come up with cures for like AIDS, cancer, leukemia. You're happy to be here away from the monkeys for a while. Yeah, I miss my monkey. Are they pretty smart, as everyone says? They are very intelligent and they hurt and bleed and have feelings just like you or I. No shit, Sherlock. Of course they do. They probably don't like being tested on for things like AIDS, cancer, and leukemia either. They probably don't like that a lot. Okay, and at this point in time, have you made up your mind as to guilt or innocence, though? I haven't. I was trying to wear on closing arguments before. Those are usually pretty good. You've been on jury duty before? I was, but it kind of really sucked because they called us back and we were, anticipating. It was my first jury and they made up an agreement and we never even got to sit on the jury. So she's pissed off now. She's pissed off that the second time she's not even allowed to deliberate. She sits all the way through and she's not allowed to deliberate. Oh dear. Oh dear. All right, let's listen what Mr. Griffin says. Let's see what Mr. Griffin says. Any questions? No, Your Honour. No, sir, says Mr. Waters. So Creighton Waters. Okay. All right. So she's going to stand there. Juror 785 exits the room. The court. All right. Comments. So this is out of Juror 785's earshot. Your Honour, I think that satisfies it. And she hasn't talked to anybody. Hasn't expressed an opinion, hasn't made an opinion, and she's got an ex-husband that she's had 3 restraining orders against him. That's understandable. Have a good night. What? That must be out of order. All right, it goes from page 6 to page 13. So Mr. Griffin is saying that it's all fine. It's all satisfied. Interesting. Interesting. I don't know what all this is about. Oh, it's all that stuff about Dandridge. Affidavit of Holly Miller. So this is Holly. We're back to Holly Miller now. You thought the CDC stopped monkey trials? I do not know. I do not know. Animal testing isn't very useful. It really isn't. Like, objectively speaking, it's not useful. Okay. You still have to do human trials. Why do animal trials? All right. So this is Holly Miller regarding another juror. Who is this Holly Miller? We need to know who Holly Miller is. So on August 6th, Dick Pitlian. Okay, so met with juror 326 during the meeting. Why is 326 not making the affidavit themselves? Why is the juror not making the affidavit themselves? Why are they not signing it themselves? Yes, she was. She was. Holly Miller was the same Holly Miller. Well, presumably, unless there's 2 Holly Millers, which will absolutely blow my mind. We've got 2 Tim Stones. We might as well have 2 Holly Millers. Hold on. Keep going. Keep going. Holly Miller. Holly Miller. P. Barber. Keep going. Tim Stone. There. So, this is Holly Miller, who, on August 6th, met with juror 741, who they couldn't arrange a suitable time and place for them to sign the affidavit. So now, go right the way back to the bottom, we've got Holly Miller standing in for a different juror. So we've not actually got any jurors speaking up for themselves, apart from 7 785 who did not have an influence on the proceedings because she was dismissed before. She was dismissed beforehand. So we've got Holly Miller standing in now for 326. Why? Why? Why are these jurors not signing their own affidavits? During the meeting, relayed the following information. So, 326 was asked if Miss Hill told the jurors not to let defence mislead them. He did not specifically recall this statement, but he did recall that Miss Hill commented to him. So they're asking leading questions. They're asking leading questions. So they're asking juror 326 if Miss Hill told the jurors not to let the defence mislead them. That's a leading question. He didn't not specifically recall that statement, but did recall that Miss Hill commented to him and other jurors about photos that would be admitted into evidence, indicating that images would be disturbing. Of course they're going to be disturbing, because this is a murder. Of course, some of the things you are going to see as a juror on a murder case are going to be disturbing. So this person has recalled that images are going to be disturbing, because they are, but didn't recall them when asked this leading question. Didn't recall that. Interesting. Also stated that the jurors were stationed in two separate rooms when they were not in the courtroom, and that he was in the room with mostly other male jurors. He was not in the same room as jurors 630, 741, or 785. So 326 stated that Miss Hill would visit the other room more often, and that he could not hear what she was telling the jurors in the other room. So who decided what juror was going to be in what room? Why was there two rooms anywhere? Did they not have a room big enough to put 12 people in? I mean, it's a court. Surely they'd have a room. Surely they had a room big enough, because they had a deliberation room. I don't understand why they're in two rooms. That's creating like factions. That's weird. Okay. During the trial, juror 326 and others discussed the case prior to deliberations. He did not discuss the case with anyone outside the jurors. Well, he's not supposed to discuss the case with anybody outside. He's not. So he's saying other jurors. What? Oh, I don't care anymore. He further commented that some of the jurors were going into the office because of financial reasons, and that people were talking to co-workers because co-workers wanted info. Some jurors were going into their office because of financial. What? So they're going to work? Well, how could they be going to work? They're in court all day. How are they going to work? I suppose they could go in at weekend. And how would he know who they're talking to, or she, or he? How would he know who they were talking to at work? That's stupid. Before deliberations began, juror 326 indicated that minor conversations led him to know who was yes and who was no. His vote changed with new evidence. So his vote wasn't swayed by anything Miss Hill said, but by new evidence, which it should do. Which it should do. You know, you might sway one way and then you might sway another way, depending on new evidence. As the jury were deliberating, the bailiff and Miss Hill told the jurors they could not take a smoke break during deliberations. There were 6 smokers on the jury, so we've discussed that already. After the trial concluded, a group chat was formed, but too many chats, don't care. And asked if he thought the clerk of court was inserting herself into the process, he said, "I can see this." Another leading question. So memorandum from Rebecca Hill, May 9th, 2023. Oh, this is relevant, irrelevant. This is to court regarding court costs on May the 9th. That's not influencing at all the influence, the outcome of Alex's trial. There we go. We're at the end. Boom. All right, guys. What do you think to all that? What do you think to all that? How many people are still awake? How many people have got to the end? How many people have got to the end? No, they weren't sequestered. No. Isn't it crazy? There's some very concerning bits, I have to say. There are some concerning things there, but there are also some, I would say, inconsequential things. There's certainly, 65 pages. You could cut that down probably by a third, because anything that happened that isn't directly influencing the outcome or potentially influencing the outcome, so anything that happened after the verdict is irrelevant. Somebody else signing an affidavit of something that a juror said, and the affidavit not being signed by the juror themselves, that's irrelevant. Surely that's hearsay. So there's some concerning things, but it has to be proven, surely. I think it's mostly rubbish. I mean, much of what is written here is mostly rubbish. There's just these certain things that are concerning that really stand out. But you have to look for them amongst the stuff that you think, nah, that's not in any way influence the outcome. That's irrelevant. 65 pages looks good, but not all of it. Not all of it's relevant. So there you go. Now I really am tired. I was tired after the last live stream, listening to Don Wells. I'm now even more tired. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go, guys. And I'm going to bid you all good night. It's gone dark while I've been talking to you. It's nearly 10 o'clock. It's 10 to 10 in my area of the world. So, yeah. So thank you all for keeping me company. The link to this is in the description box for the replay viewers. I'll put it in the chat for you guys if you want to go over and read it yourselves. Some of the bits I skipped over. If you want to go and take a read, there you go. Just grab that link and take it. Yeah. So thank you all for the donations. Thank you for being respectful. The entire thing is bizarre, Chase, and you're absolutely right. It's bizarre. But they need to get to the bottom of it. I want to see a hearing. I want one of those hearings. I want a hearing. Cameras, please. We want to see this going down. I think this is going to take quite some time, honestly. I honestly can't see him getting another trial. I can't. But if it's proven, if some of these things could potentially have been harmful to the outcome, then in all fairness, he should have a fair trial with an impartial jury, miles and miles away from Murdaugh country, so that none of this can happen again. All right, guys. Thanks for the donations. Thanks, as always, to the mods. And I will see you all very soon. Bye, guys.